NoRedInk? Oh my gosh. This is the most boring, terrible, and fundamentally flawed learning program to ever exist in this world. It is a pain to deal with, and it uses old, outdated methods of teaching grammar. This will be a lengthy rant, but if you ever had an experience with NoRedInk similar to this one, you are sure to agree with every word that is coming directly from my mouth. This rant is long, but I made this rant in the highest quality possible. NoRedInk stresses kids out more than you might think. It is an absolute waste of time and takes away freedom from students and causes them to experience anger, frustration, and depression. Let me give you my look onto it, then I will give some factors to why NoRedInk is so universally despised and hated across the whole of the US. First, let's go over my viewpoint on the site from my experience. I hate NoRedInk so much. The topics of the lessons are so tedious and annoying that it takes me forever to get through a single one. Also, whenever I get a question wrong, I have to get 3 in a row to continue. What the heck is this? The missed question penalty is absolutely ridiculous. If you get a question wrong at any time, you have to instantly answer 3 more questions in a row, and you have to answer them correctly. If you mess up on the penalty and get one wrong, the penalty resets itself and you have to start all over. It is absolutely infuriating. The topics are so frustratingly hard and most times, not helpful. It takes up to 2-3 hours for a NoRedInk assignment that really should only take about 20-30 minutes. The lesson slides are used as the hints, and most of the time doesn't give any helpful information. I myself have had to put up with these tedious assignments and constant wrong answers. Like, for example, it told me to select a punctuation to use for a topic. I could not understand it all, so I tried to answer it. I, eventually, couldn't take it anymore and almost gave up with the lesson. NoRedInk is an absolute waste of time. It causes bad behavior within students, and it made me want to break my school computer. It is not helpful and fails at being a learning website. The lessons are a pain to get through, and students hate it. Students become so stressed with these stupid NoRedInk assignments that they eventually can't even think straight. I don't understand why schools use a website that doesn't even work correctly. It makes no sense. If you are a school and you use NoRedInk, then you like to watch students suffer and you are evil. Now, let me calm down and tell you why NoRedInk is awful at a learning website. NoRedInk should be shut down and be replaced by sites like Edpuzzle, Study Island, and Brain Pop. NoRedInk is no fun and hurts our grades, and schools should abolish it. It is just terrible. It has terrible questions, and teaches students nothing. The only thing it does is waste time for school facility as well as the students who are forced to use it. We should rely on our teachers to come up with fun and interactive ways to teach us stuff instead of throwing students onto yet another electronic device. They have enough of that already. This also gives students more homework, of which they have enough already. They also have bad questions, which not only confuses the students, but the teachers. This wastes time and makes everybody's lives harder. All in all, NoRedInk is a terrible program that could be replaced easily by teachers. That change would make students' school experience much more fun, and when school is fun, students learn better. It is a waste of time and no school should ever use it. Nobody has learned anything from NoRedInk. Nothing accomplished, nothing earned. NoRedInk only brings frustration, tears, and holes in the wall. It's just a plague of bubonic proportions spreading through the United States. This plague, however, does not target the body. Instead, It targets the mind. NoRedInk is absolutely, unequivocally, and indubitably repugnant in every sense of the word. For those too dull to know the meaning of repugnant, it means unacceptable or exciting distaste. Repugnant perfectly describes NoRedInk and the feeling it evokes in every student. NoRedInk is simply incompatible with many students. It appeals only to those that learn visually. Neil Fleming, designer of the VARK modalities, claims there are 4 sensory modalities: visual, oral, read, write, verbal, and kinesthetic, physical. It is utterly preposterous to standardize a program that only works for those who learn visually. NoRedInk simply doesn't work for many students, and these students are forced to suffer through NoRedInk in order to save their grade. Making every student use NoRedInk is like making every male wear size 10 shoes. It simply doesn't fit. The American school system is archaic to its very core. NoRedInk is simply a product of our ancient schooling philosophy. America's education system is a one-size-fits-all approach to education. It is ripped straight from the industrial era, and NoRedInk does nothing to change this. NoRedInk consists of sitting on a computer and blindly attempting grammar questions. This program just contributes to America's education blunders. Students do not like NoRedInk, but American educators do not seem to care. NoRedInk is fundamentally flawed in its teaching style. In a typical NoRedInk lesson, a student will hop into checkpoint in an attempt to skip several lessons and finish quickly. They then use a guess and check system because if you click the help button the question is wrong and you need to get 3 in a row right in order to continue on the lesson. This creates a learning environment where students are scared of failure because failure means more NoRedInk, more copy and paste questions and more frustration. When a student dislikes something, they either won't do it or won't care while they do. This prevents true learning. The amount of time that NoRedInk takes away from students is beyond belief. Students have claimed that NoRedInk assignments have taken hours for them to complete. A NoRedInk assignment should take only around 20–30 minutes to finish, but instead, due to the confusing problems and ridiculous penalty system, have taken a ton of hours away from students and usually leaves them annoyed, irritated and stressed. NoRedInk assignments not only cause stress within students, but students can also develop serious health problems that can affect them as an adult. With NoRedInk assignments, students can be deprived of their sleep schedule, resulting in them being tired during school. Problems with health can also result from homework as well as NoRedInk, like stomach problems, ulcers, etc. If it gets bad enough, the student can become seriously ill, be in serious pain, or possibly die due to the unhealthy amounts of stress caused by NoRedInk. It also seems that NoRedInk shows that it does not give any academic benefits to any of its users, students, that are forced to use it. It shows no academic benefits within students. The site only angers students and prevents them from learning other subjects or activities. The site, even though it is educational and an official learning site, does not help students and overall kills their grades, which upsets parents and angers them because the student is not receiving a well-rounded education that is so vital to their success in school. It is also broken beyond belief. The site is full of bugs, imperfections, and glitches that it makes the site pretty much unusable. The bugs can result in a correct response being counted as incorrect, along with many others that seriously affect the student's ability to get it done, resulting in worse grades overall. It seriously can affect the student. The penalty system is flawed, and wastes students' time. If you get a question wrong at any point during the topic, you immediately have to answer 3 questions correctly in a row to move on with the topic. You can then possibly finish the topic after you beat the penalty system, but if you mess up during the penalty, it resets the counter and you are forced to start the penalty over. This causes assignments to take more time than they are supposed to, and an assignment that should only take 30 minutes instead takes hours to complete. Also, the hints are very unhelpful to students. If at any time you get stuck, you also can click on the Show Hint button to show a hint for a problem you are having trouble with. However, the hint is recycled from the lesson button, meaning half of the time the hints don't give you any useful or helpful information, and leave you confused. If at any time you need help with a NoRedInk topic, it is better to ask the teacher for help than click on the Show Hint button. The main reason NoRedInk is hated by students across the US is because the problems and questions are very confusing. The scenarios are just normal scenarios mixed with the favorites you selected when you signed up for an account with NoRedInk. However, even though the scenarios are normal scenarios that can happen on a daily basis, the things each question tells you to do make no sense. For example, it can tell you to place the correct punctuation in the correct places, or have you fill in the blanks with a word or a number. While some are easy, most turn out to be difficult and hard to understand, which ultimately results in a student either giving up or asking for assistance way too much, taking the teacher's time away from doing more important teacher-like stuff, which makes their job as a teacher harder and more difficult. Lastly, NoRedInk is a boring site that teachers use. There are absolutely no fun factors in NoRedInk. Instead, it is a boring fill-in-the-blank, click the right word, or add or remove punctuation problem with many flaws. NoRedInk makes learning boring, and NoRedInk has no thought put into it. Study Island, even though it most likely is just as bad, at least has fun aspects to it, like educational games, which help students a lot with topics they are struggling with. NoRedInk doesn't have that, which is a major downside and will drive people away from using it. There is no better word to describe NoRedInk than repugnant. NoRedInk is incompatible with students, it is archaic in its teaching style, and students simply do not like it. NoRedInk is a plague, but it can be cured, and it must be abolished by any means necessary. Schools must understand NoRedInk is a terrible program and get rid of it entirely. No student on this godforsaken earth likes NoRedInk. It is fundamentally flawed in its teaching style, it is very frustrating and incompatible with students, and makes everyone's life harder. If you disagree with me at all, I respect your viewpoint and opinion on it, but you have to also respect mine. But I am sure we're all on the same page when I say NoRedInk is awful and should never be used to teach students grammar. And that is the end of my lengthy rant. I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.